Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Priscilla Carbajal. I am a farmer, a textile artist. Thank you for being here. I'm a little nervous, so it's gonna take me a little bit to get into the groove. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I think Robert can let me know. But let's try to save the questions to the end. I'm leaving plenty of time for that. But I wanted to talk about kind of what I do. Like I said, I've been a farmer for about 10 years. I got into farming when my sons were really little, and I started in the tropics of Hawaii. I went through a program called Go Farm Hawaii, where we had friends that were coaching people how to farm in the tropics as small market farmers. And it was geared towards people who were working full time, and then they were able to grow their own food and make a big business out of it. Or maybe not big business, but um, it was such a great start because it taught me kind of everything I know now about integrating co-planting and plants and flowers and supporting systems through everything. And I didn't initially know what the words were. So I'm going to take you kind of into that and how it gets into a bit of agroforestry and permaculture. And I feel like there's some differences, but why don't we get into that? Okay, so and maybe you've never heard of the word agroforestry. So I wanted to define it as per what the USDA states it as. Basically, it's like growing a forest or fruit crops or fruit trees and maybe native plants and all of that going into focusing onto the economic, environmental, social needs of people, but it's also more geared to economics. So how can you grow food productively, make a living, but still respecting the environment that you're in? And so I did put the resource, and Robert's welcome to share the PowerPoint afterwards, so that you can actually see what it means. Another way of thinking about agroforestry, and it was kind of a new word I learned a few years ago after I took a workshop with Sentli, which is another part-time job I have for a nonprofit here in the Valley, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. It's called centropic agriculture, but they're both very similar. I think it just depends on who you talk to on what you're actually going to, if they're going to define it as agroforestry or centropic agriculture, but basically all the same thing. How can we conserve our natural landscape but still feed ourselves? And so that was something I was definitely taught when I started farming, and it kept growing and growing. A new thing I kind of got into was permaculture. And kind of messed up, sorry about that. Um, Permaculture is a word that was coined in the 1970s from a man in Australia. Meaning how is he going to take care of people, the earth, and then return all of that surplus back to the environment that people are living in, whether to the people or whether to the land that they were on. I did know a few people who did permaculture while I was in Hawaii, and I never really understood it. And I had visited their farms, and it was amazing and beautiful. But now I see how the way that I have the field for the school that I work for, their farm is very similar to the way that I had first had my first encounter with permaculture. Um, Basically, you're just taking observations and you're making a design to be integrated into the landscape in which you're at. So this can also be done in any backyard, can be applied anywhere. And I brought some books. So it kind of talks about the different ways of how designing a permaculture field is. But when I took the Native Plant Society design class level 2, it's exactly the same. You're designing a food forest, but you're integrating all of the trees and fruit trees or native plants, and all of that kind of all goes together. So the photo I have here is actually a map of the school I work at, which is Idea Public Schools in San Benito, and this is how we laid out our field, and it's integrating like fruit trees and native trees and flowers for pollinators, because all of that in the end goes back to agroforestry and permaculture for me. And I did just left some links if you want to like take a deeper dive into that. So in practice, why would you want to do agroforestry or permaculture? There's so many benefits, and for me, it ends up becoming like a way of life. I don't separate them into different things anymore, and it took me a while to get there, because when I first started farming, I was like, I just want to do it so that I could like grow food for myself, for my family, and then possibly make some money off of it, right? But since I had a whole nother job as well, like it wasn't my sole source, but as I got more into it and we saw like so much interest from restaurants and support, which is very different than in Texas, because I was pretty shocked when I moved back over here. I think we're growing to the way people thought in Hawaii, even though they still import a lot of their food. But if you were in certain places and in certain regions, there are people who totally support farming and local growing and things like that. So I think you're able to make a living, farmers are able to make a living here and over there. It's just a little bit harder sometimes. But the benefits are the biodiversity. So the biodiversity in plants and pollinators. You practice soil and water conservation, I think, in more ways than you actually think. The permaculture field we actually have now, I hardly water it. And I'm going to kind of explain why I let it that way, and kind of it also benefits from where it's actually planted. So that helps a lot. But you notice as you start building your own microclimate within your yard, you're using less water. You're using you're not killing your soil, because you're actually giving back, and your soil is alive. Like it gives you so many benefits, and it gives you the physical, emotional, and mental health. I think what people don't realize is that just being outside is gonna like raise your spirits. I read a research article the other day about how there are so many microbes in the soil that it can actually help people who have lung cancer. And so whatever is in there is helping people to like recover like mental health, and all of that ends up going to like bettering their overall physical health. So, and I knew that from a long time ago, and I think actually Eva and I talk about that a lot, about like how being outside, being in the soil. And I think that was one reason why I started to like really get into farming. I had like a significant loss at the beginning of my career. And I remember my friends saying, like, this has been researched like 10 years ago as well. Like, it improves your mental health. Just sticking your hands in the soil will improve your mental health. And then I would read books about all the mycorrhizae in the soil, which is all the microbes, and all of that is alive. So everything in the soil is alive, you're alive, and all of that is affecting everything about you and about the people around you. So this I actually just took the other day, so you can see like this is a line of Mexican sunflowers or tipiones, and then I just caught the butterfly like right then and there. So this is part of the field of the permaculture field we have. So this is the beginning, and like I said, I currently work at Idea Public Schools at the campus in San Benito. We have 3 different agricultural systems, and so I'm going to kind of go through the first one. I had a farmer, an ex-farmer, assistant farmer actually, that worked with us, and he was excited to do this field, and I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I don't have the bandwidth, I can't do this, like, I'm too overwhelmed. I said, if you want to do it like this, then please, like, figure it out. And so I gave him a book that I had recently bought, and he looked through it, and this is what he came up with. We ended up starting to plant. This isn't a very big space. It probably measures I want to say less than 1,000 square feet. Um, and there's so many possibilities in growing in this way because you can grow so much diversity, and I'll go into that in just a sec. So what we initially did with the field is that we tilled it, and if you know San Benito's soil, the soil is really clayey. Um, if you think about where we're at, it's a delta. It was probably covered in water for a very long time. So all of that soil is really hard and clayey, and it has some nutrients, but not. It's high in salt, very different. And so what we ended up doing was thinking about what we could do to mitigate all this water runoff that was coming off of the pavilion. So somebody that was a huge pavilion, and we had so much water, and I was getting a lot of erosion. And so I had initially flipped my field to a different planting, and that helped. But what really helped was when we started to convert it to a permaculture. So what we started with is tilling the initial land. Then we started layering. So I did a bit of research on how I was going to build up that soil. We put cardboard down, we put mulch, and then we added a layer of compost. So this was about 3 years ago. So think about this then, and then I'm going to show you pictures of now. Anytime you start a new field or anything you want to go into a new project, always give it at least 3 years, because that's what it's going to tell you if it's surviving or not going to survive, especially growing and farming. That was one thing that anytime we got moved to a different space or anything, it's like, nothing's going to tell you anything until you're 3 years, like we all know that. It's just a cycle to everything that you're doing, and all of those inputs are finally going to give you the benefits. And so we spread out the compost, and then we started making the design we wanted to make. So we initially lined out all of the walkways with mulch, because that's where we wanted people to keep walking and not stepping on our beds or where we were going to be planting our vegetables. And so any of the dark spaces you see in this last picture, that is just compost, and those were our planting beds. And so this is where our first year of planting, it wasn't great because everything didn't have time yet to like break down. But we had to get it planted, we had to see what we were gonna do, and then we would go from there. So if you see like towards the beds closer to the pavilion, that was like some trellis I had put up because we used to get a bunch of soccer balls and basketballs coming into the field, and then kids would run in, and I would be like, I can't take this, they're stepping on everything. And so what I ended up doing was planting a really beautiful trellis line of butterfly peas. And all of this goes back to just increasing biodiversity, educating students on different things that you can grow to eat, to pick, to look at beautiful, like increasing pollinators, all of that. And so this currently has butterfly peas and grapes, and then I already had a perennial bed of asparagus. And so that also goes into planting. When you're thinking about a space you want to go into, you have to think about not only your annuals, which are the crops or flowers that are going to like go through their life cycle, but you want to think about the things that are going to come back again always, and like they're going to have their like dry season or their fertile season, and then they're going to have their like off season. And asparagus was one of those, and I love asparagus, and so I was like, I'm putting it in. So I had planted like a full, like I think they're about 35 feet, 40 feet in width or length of asparagus. And you can't always harvest asparagus, it's just the way it is, but it's big and beautiful, and the birds love to eat the seeds. So thinking about all of the crops that you want to put somewhere, what are the things that are going to be beneficial to me, and then the ones for everything around the environment. And so that was it. It has changed from what that was to what it is now. If you think about here, it was basil that I had there, and some, I think it had roselle, but it didn't like it. So first year, everything wasn't like super happy, but we were still producing a little bit. So what ended up happening after this was that I covered it because we started to get a lot of weeds and grass and things like that. So I basically silage tarped it for about 6 months. to kill everything. So the sun, you cover it with a dark like cloth, and then it's absorbing and it's so hot here and it's killing all of that. And then the other benefit of that was that it's breaking down all of that compost and it's breaking down all of that mulch. So we're giving food back to all the microbes that are gonna like eat everything, give you all the nutrients that your plants need. So yeah, it's just transition. So the second year was more of just covering everything. But in the end, it farming or incorporating permaculture fields and agroforestry into any space that you have will increase crop diversity. And I love vegetables. Like that's the thing that I think has kept me alive through farming, even though it's so hard. It's not an easy job, and I can see why people don't like it, but it helps me to build so much character and you learn so much about yourself when you grow different crops. And so some of the things that I've grown throughout my life is like Swiss chard, but I love all the colors and we eat with our eyes, right? We want to see the crop diversity. We want to see those colors. That's how our bodies know that it's super nutritious for us. And so your crop diversity, your pollinator diversity is all going to support the nutrition that you need. So this was a watermelon we grew that was called Sun and Stars. And so, or Moon and Stars, so you can see like the big like yellow is basically the moon and then all the little speckles and gives you this bright yellow interior. So it was pretty good. This is corn, which is maíz morado. So it was a purple corn, but I ultimately wanted to dye with it. But it didn't do that well. So it was still like my second year of the permaculture field. I wasn't happy. I maybe planted it at the wrong time. But we do grow a lot of carrots. And these are the one thing that the students in San Benito love. I do a carrot trial like every year. This year was probably my biggest. We had 7 different varieties, so 7 different colors. And all of them are different. And what the kids don't understand is that eating the purple one is actually the most nutritious for you. Think of blueberries. They are super high in antioxidants. The same with any vegetables and other fruits that you eat. The darker and more colorful they are, the better they are for you. These are actually radishes. So this purple, beautiful one right here is called a daikon radish. The middle one was just a regular scarlet turnip. They don't, that isn't very common. I think you might find it at a like farmer's market, but I don't see a lot of farmers growing it. But like I said, I love seeds and I love crop diversity. So I always try to grow everything because I just love the color. And then this one on the edge is called a watermelon radish. They're all very good for you. Actually, pickled is the best in rice vinegar. I think my kids don't like it because they say the house stinks afterwards, but it's really good for them. All right, so again, some of the other things that I've grown, not only do I grow vegetables, but I grow a lot of flowers. And what I learned again from my initial farming experience is that planting flowers at the beginning and the end of your beds is going to increase your pollinator diversity. And you need your pollinators to what? To fertilize. You need them to fertilize the different crops that you have. I mean, a lot of vegetables are self-pollinating, and there are times that I actually grow like parthenocopic vegetables because I really want that crop. And so they don't need pollination, they just pollinate by themselves. But like if I wanted to grow this patty plant, it's gonna need a pollinator. It's not gonna self-pollinate. Peas and beans, they always self-pollinate. Kale and so many different varieties. This one is actually called a dazzling blue, but it has this beautiful like stem purple when you grow it. Yeah, I haven't grown as many varieties as kale as I used to, but like I would market it as a kale bouquet because I would grow like 6 different varieties of kale. And they all have their own unique like texture and color and leaf and softness. And I think that the more you get into it, and supporting basically local farmers, the more you're gonna get exposed to everything, and your food tastes so much better. Like there's no, I mean, I've had my kids eat like a pound of these beans just because I just picked them. And the first pick is always the best. Always. It's never like your second and third is okay, but yeah, first pick is so sweet. It like melts in your mouth. So it was okay that I didn't get to sell that pound or whatever. He loved it. This is a Dacus Dara. It's beautiful. I hadn't seen one like this before in this like bi-colored sort of way it came out. And I wasn't sure why it did, but I'm saving seed from it, so I'm pretty happy about it. So remembering like everything in permaculture and agroforestry is like you're still doing selective, or I let it reseed and like do its thing as we're going along through the season. Again, just more things that I've grown, different cucumbers. I usually try to grow things that are open pollinated. The reason for that is I don't necessarily believe in no, I don't. I don't believe in GMO seeds. I think that everybody should have the ability to grow the seeds that they want. So I usually source all of my own seeds that are open pollinated so that I can save seed from them, or I can adapt them to the climate that I'm actually farming in. So that's probably one of the things that are like an integral practice that I use is always purchasing like open pollinated seeds. And there's so many companies that have that source, and they'll even say it on their website. So yes.
What do you mean by open pollinated?
Meaning that they are not bred, so they're not going to have like an F1 by it. They're not hybrids.
Okay.
And so if you think about what an F1 or hybrid is, it's basically they're selecting to get this, but if you save the seed from that F1, you're not going to get that original seed. It basically got bred to become this F1. And farmers do it as well, but we do it the old school. So like either self-pollinating ourselves to get the characteristics or the traits that we want. Yeah, so there's a lot of like restoration seeds, biogarden seeds, FECO. There's so many seed companies that will give you open pollinated, and so I usually source from them. This corn actually is from Hawaii. There is a really where we were farming at in the Waimanalo Research Center station. There was a man there that he dedicated his life to like only growing corn in the tropics. And so this is like, I don't think it's a number 9, but it was like an Aloha number 9. But it's sweet, it's wonderful, but it's amazing that somebody can actually dedicate their life to just corn. But you know what? Corn is one of the best things, so I can't complain. But I actually grew it here and I was so excited, and that was like my harvest from it. Like I had never really dedicated my life. I have a friend that's all he grows. Like he only wants corn and squash and will grow that every year, creating his own milpa or his the Three Sisters basically. But I think this was one of the first years I was farming in Edinburgh. I was leasing a place from a friend of mine, and it was like amazing. I couldn't believe that I had actually like grown it and that I got the timing right. So timing, and I've had failures before, and it happens, but you just like chop it, drop it, get it back into the ground again, and then you start all over. This is a cucumber called a muncher. So I noticed like there's not a lot of cucumbers that you can't save seed from, but this was one and it did really well. Different kinds of tomatoes. This is a yellowfin zucchini. It is an F1, so you won't be able to save seed, and it's part of the coffee. But when I was growing for myself and I need to ensure that I had that crop, I usually would buy that kind. Because for whatever reason, I don't really like summer squash. It's like too weird. Like the texture's too weird. I prefer zucchini, so I always have to make sure I have like the yellow and the green that I really like of those varieties. Okay. So these are like all the pictures. Pollinators, like animals, birds that I have had the pleasure of encountering. like on my own farm or at the school farm. And it's amazing. Like, look at the snake and the asparagus. Like, he scared the farmer I was working with before. This is maybe the swallowtail. I'm not sure. But that little guy, she was on the Dara. So even if maybe it's not the host like plant that they like, they're still going to be attracted to it. Um, this is a moth that I found in Swiss chard. So I harvested a bunch of Swiss chard and I was washing them and I turned it over and like there's this little guy like, and so I just like put him back in the compost pile and I just left it. Like I don't think that's Swiss chard. There's more in the field. So, but it's amazing to see like in this small little less than 2,000 square feet, maybe 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, we can support all of this. Like, and so you can imagine what you can do in your own yard. A lot of this is like wasps and sable palms, butterflies on marigolds. So incorporating both like native plants and other annuals, you're still going to increase the pollinators that's beneficial for everybody. I mean, like spiders, the orb spider on the celery, they really love to be there in the celery. And I didn't grow as much celery this year, but this I took last year when I had like a full like 40-foot bed of it. And so we always had to be careful when we were harvesting. Again, like butterflies, we took that last year in the fall. I have a couple more. Yeah, the Tithiones like are attracting all of the butterflies. So it's amazing to see like when we go in the morning, like we're just like covered and we're walking through and like we're just having to walk through like this uh jungle of butterflies in a way. Other butterflies, tarantulas. It's amazing to me that we can attract so many pollinators and then it helps all of us in the end. I did photos of carpenter bees, but I don't think I included them here either. And I haven't really, I think I maybe noticed a few native bees, but not as many, or maybe I just don't look for them either. So it's a bit different. Today, this is what the permaculture field now looks like. So it's pretty overgrown. One thing different I did this year was I planted frog fruit as a ground cover, but then it ended up taking over and I only put a few transplants here and there. But since we've had so much water, it's like loving it. But the other thing I love about it is that I can go and cut it and then it's gonna come back. And so what we are trying to do is make sure that the ground has enough moisture. So I think that's what we're actually benefiting from now is that we're conserving all of that water now into the soil. And so I don't really have to water anymore. We've been blessed with a lot of rain. And so all of that is making this zucchini bed like look amazing. Some farmers and I were talking about that yesterday when they came to help me. But it's also about timing. So in that same bed, I had long beans in. So if you think about what legumes do for soil is that they're nitrogen fixers. And so they're going to hold all the nitrogen in. So when you're thinking about growing crops, it's about crop rotation, which goes back into agroforestry and the idea of permaculture too. So the zucchini looks amazing, and they were like, we can't believe it's summer and it doesn't have any disease or mildew or virus or whatever, because zucchini and summer squash are super susceptible to powdery mildew or downy mildew in the summer months. But I think with all of the diversity of crops that we have now with the flowers and the ground covers, everything is like keeping that down, even though we've had so much rain. Like they should be dead, and they're not. So, just managing your farm or the space you want to plant at is a thing that you always have to think about too when you're incorporating. So right in the center, we have an ebony tree, so it's gonna get really big. I'm trying to like basically I need to go and prune it so I can like have it go up so that students don't run into it. We have banana trees, we have guava, we have peaches. Students planted a lot of natives, like the milkweed and the siniso and And we also put in other things like lemongrass, but that also helps with pest and disease. I usually let everything go to seed, so that's why we have so much of the Titheonis, because I had only planted a few of them last year in the fall. And then I would grab the seed and then I just start tossing them everywhere, or the birds come and get them, or students grab them and they dump them everywhere. And so now that field is full. And so I'm just leaving it for now because it's at least being covered. And so learning to be a farmer is that you always want to make sure for soil conservation is to make sure your ground is covered in something. A cover crop is usually best, but I bet once it starts to get cold again and I go and chop and drop all these Tithionis, I'm going to let that all go back into the ground because sunflowers add a lot of biomass. And so I want to make sure that I keep that biomass there for the other crops that I come back in. We don't do, the thing with permaculture is that you're doing no-tilling. So it's no-till. We do mow sometimes if we really have to, but usually not. We usually just chop and drop it and let it die. And then I would cover it. I'm going to cover it again with the silage tarp. So after this session is done, I'll cut everything down, cover it, let everything break down, and then I'll go back in and plant it again. Just because I'm creating the cycle of life, which goes back into the agroforestry type. I think with true permaculture, you probably wouldn't do that. You would just let it go down, let it rest, and then replant it when it was ready. But all your fields or any planting spaces you have will always need a time of rest, just like we do. Any questions?
When will that be? Like, when will you plant it again?
I'm gonna wait till all of the Mexican sunflowers die, and then I'll probably replant it again in the spring.
So
Next spring. Yeah, next spring. So hopefully it'll get a little cooler, things will die back, and then I will let them everything rest. But things that will still be growing is like the passion flower vine. The grapes will die, but asparagus will be growing, so I'll be able to still harvest asparagus. I'm hoping, since we're in the summer, what we're harvesting now would be figs and guava, and the zucchini and the summer squash. There are some tomatoes as well. But yeah, after this session of the summer into fall, then I'm gonna let it rest and just chop and drop everything and then give it its time, because I don't want to go back into it quite yet. And I kind of want to finish all the sand pathways that we've been growing, and I'm gonna have to kind of kill the frog fruit a little bit because it's just like taking over and I don't have any time to maintain it. Although everybody loves it and the kids love it. But I do want to go back in and plant some roselle or Jamaica again into this field, because when I planted it this past year, it did amazing and I loved it, and I got a really big harvest off of it.
I have a question. So as far as varieties go, do you usually stick to like the zones, our zoning, growing suggestions?
No,
No.
because if we are in the subtropics, but my feeling is that we are moving to the tropics. And so even when I lived in Hawaii, that was the tropics, we still were able to grow like all your cabbages, your cauliflower, all your winter crops. Yeah. And you can still do that here and almost push it. And since I started really late, I was late all this year for all my plantings. Like I don't even know how I ended where I needed to be. Like, and I was thinking about it later, like after I had some meetings with my managers, and I was like, I was so late. I was late in getting my winter crops started. I was late and like putting them in the ground. And then I got saved by the late colds that we had and all the rain. But then I'm thinking about it and I was like, I think we're still moving into the tropics. Like this weird feeling of like, in Hawaii, it doesn't get as cold. It got colder here for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm going off of what I've learned and then how I've been farming here. Because when I transitioned from there to here, I was totally lost. And it was hard for me to find somebody that could actually tell me when to start seeds, when to get them in. And then I found like a really good group of people, like people from the Hub of Prosperity and Sentli, who I work for, and have been friends with them since I moved back to Texas. And so I was just paying attention, so very observational. And so now I have a better handle of when seeds need to get started. But I don't know, I think because of where we live, I would try to connect with like the Hub of Prosperity has a really good resource for their planting seasons. And so, but now that things are shifting, it's hard for me to say that because I was away. I didn't get my crops in the ground until February, and I started them in December. Or students started them for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
spring.
It should have been winter crops.
Yeah.
I planted like kale and Swiss chard and cabbage and chicory, and everything was so late. But we got like an amazing harvest off of it because of the way the weather shifted.
Yeah.
So I think once you start farming and getting into what you're growing, you will intuitively start learning what to do. And I don't think that's something I can teach.
Yeah.
I think you just have to pay attention. A lot of the times. Yes.
Texas Master Gardener, if you look online, they actually do have a schedule.
Yeah, that's what I usually use.
Right.
And
And there are a couple of others too. I'm just thinking, I've used several different ones and yeah, I was late.
We were saved. Oh my God.
That's right. Thank you every day.
yeah, like for fall, technically I was like on time. My broccoli and stuff started wilting because we had such a warm winter.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I was late.
Yeah.
I was late for everything, and I was like, perfect, exactly. But I was late last year too, and it kept shifting, and I
Yeah.
can tell as I'm growing. But once you're more outside, your body knows, and I can't explain that.
No.
And I keep trying to say it, but you'll start
Second
noticing.
picture.
You can smell it in the mornings. You'll smell it in the evenings. You'll know like the difference. You'll figure it out. And then it's just trial and error. Like I said, I've had a lot of crop failures, but I'm just like, oh well, like, okay, try it again. So it gets better. So yeah, this is just still another like angle of the field. The asparagus is actually being hidden by all of the tomatoes because students eat them and throw them. Or we just toss them when they're bad. I basically just toss them wherever I want. And then the peonies. This actually is a little fig tree next to a passion flower vine, which is supporting all of our. I'm never going to be able to say that butterfly's name. Thank you. So, frog fruit, as you can see, and then we also have some guava, a lot of marigolds. Again, I throw the seeds or let things reseed naturally. We chopped and dropped some of the dill, but I will let everything go to seed and let that take care of the pest instead of me spraying all the time. And I think this year I only sprayed maybe like 4 times more for fertilization than I did for like cabbage loopers or for like aphids or things like that. I basically let companion planting, which goes back into like or intercropping. Companion planting goes into permaculture and agroforestry because you're increasing that diversity. Your wasps are going to eat all of the bad bugs, all your pests, the ladybugs, all of those things are helping you out. So I kind of just like let everything be. Although I still haven't gotten bananas yet. Maybe one day. This is the other part of the field. So I actually have 3 different agricultural systems at San Benito. I love long fields, rows of vegetables. I don't know why. I love it. I know I love the permaculture too. But there's something when I see like 100-foot bed of like beans or corn, like it just makes my mind like all happy. But this is my other field, which was late planted. So you can see like all the diversity in the crops themselves. Like I've always thought when I had planted, like I'm not a very good artist. Like I can't draw to save my life or paint, but I can grow a field that looks like a painting to me. And so if you can see purple kale and the different shades of green from the cabbage and the bright green from the carrots, leeks have this really beautiful eucalyptus green, I think. And so all of that, when I stare at it, it like makes my eyes like really happy. And each of the flowers that I put in between different varieties, which I did a lot this year with carrots, because again, I planted 7 different kinds and I needed a way to like say, oh, this is gonna shift to a different variety. And I put a bunch of flowers in, the Swiss chard, parsley, cilantro, all of that is creating what your eye is gonna love, right? So, and then in the background we have a lenguaje, we have some sable palms, and we have a native garden on that back end that needs some love, and I haven't had time to do that yet. But maybe this next coming year, I can get more students to plant more trees back there for us. Yeah, but this now, because it's summer, like this was winter, now it's dead. Like we chopped and dropped most of it. We did all of our last cuttings. The kale was getting aphids, the Swiss chard. There's risk of cabbage loopers. There was a bunch of caterpillars, but we're still promoting what? Diversity, biodiversity, and all of its forms. We had dill reseed itself because I planted it last year with a row of peas. And then we had a whole line of dill. So all of that like helps with pests because of the smell. It's one of the pest deterring like crops. So are onions. So we planted onions in between all of our kale. And so all of that helps with as you're growing and still companion planting, increasing your crop diversity and your biodiversity for insects. The other system we actually have in San Benito is the hydroponic system. So this is an indoor growing system, fully automated, controlled environment. And it runs off of LED lights, which you can see here, which are red and blue. The system itself basically runs off of a controller computer, and we run it, and this is what we grow. We grow all of this for the school. The students love it. It's more as an educational tool, but I don't like the lettuce. I don't like hydroponic lettuce, but a lot of the other students love it, and our cafeteria loves it, and the students love it. There's a different flavor. I think that for me, there's a loss between the water. The water isn't going to give you what soil can give you. If you think what is in the soil, all those microbes, all the things that you're looking for, but if we really needed to use it, we have this other tool. And in some spaces, I think that this is necessary, although the flavor is very different to everybody. But I do love working in there. I think it's fun. It like makes my analytical brain get happy when I get to solve a problem or plant it. And sometimes things aren't working outside, but they're totally working in here. So, or vice versa. And what I find is that when we show this to students, it's getting them more interested in farming. And my ultimate goal really is to get more people into agriculture. It doesn't mean that they have to farm or, you know, do what I do, but I would love for them to be interested in like, how can I grow this part of agriculture in a different way, because we're losing that. And so this is one of the ways through education. All right, so in closing, these are some strategies that you can use yourself. Again, agroforestry, you're using polycrop systems, which is permaculture. You are using successional plantings and elements. You're incorporating all of those trees, your fruit trees, your the trees that are native to the place that you're at. Because those already know they're going to be low maintenance, they're used to the soil. Some are edible, like the ebony. The mesquites are edible, but you do still want all of those like deep rooted, used to your area kind of trees to be incorporated into any system that you have. Crop rotation, like I mentioned, and then that all of it is going to increase the plant community of where you're at, not only for yourself, but for others. And you're still focusing on soil and water conservation. I think what I do now is like an intentional planting. I'm planning where I want certain things. I know what I want to go in, what I want to support, what seeds I want to save, because for me, all of that goes back into what I'm doing. I want to save the seeds. I want to keep growing certain crops. I want to, it's basically a lifestyle at this point. So, this was a resource that I got from a workshop I took, like I mentioned, like 2 or 3 years ago. His name was Mr. Marquez. He was from Colombia. He gave an amazing presentation on what they do in South America. But if we think about what agroforestry and permaculture are, this is the way people used to grow before traditional rural conventional cropping agriculture came about. They were looking at their land, looking at what was around them, and then incorporating all of that back in. And what I really learned from his workshop was that as they were going into places that were dead in Brazil, or he was in South America, not Colombia, but it was somewhere else where he was doing his thesis or his research. And they were going in planting bananas or cacao trees, and then they were planting all of that, and in the next row planting food crops. And so he only did maybe less than an acre, and I would say a quarter acre. And then as your trees are growing bigger, you're still able to plant your food crops, but then as your trees get too big, they're shading out all of your fruit, your vegetable crops, and so you move somewhere else. But everything is helping each other. So if you ever get a chance to actually visit Sentli and Edinburgh, they have the exact same system going on right now, where a lot of the bananas, everything is incorporated into like this type of growing of agroforestry. I had a workshop from some people in Africa, and they do exactly the same thing. And they plant in circles. All of this, if you think about it, ends up becoming where you are conserving water. Another practice I do follow is like dryland farming, which happens in Willacy County on a different level. But when you're planting in a permaculture environment, agroforestry, you kind of naturally start doing dryland farming because you're not depending on irrigation water or water from the city, because all that water is going back into your soil, and you're only watering when it's needed and fertilizing when it's needed. But if you want any more resources on agroforestry or the Centropic, let me know. They're in Spanish, so I only had a few in English, but most of them were in Spanish. But it was like a wealth. Like I had forgotten that I had been sent those types of resources, but it was amazing. Oh, actually, I do want to go back. Wait, one more comment. I think this also went to our level 2 class. So you have your primary, secondary, and tertiary forest species of the region. So if you think about as you're designing your landscape with native plants, how can you incorporate those 3 primary, secondary, and tertiary to also grow your food crops? So if you take the design class when it comes up again, and then all of that can help you if you want to start growing food and incorporating all of your native plants. So with that, thank you. Oh, sorry.
I think one thing you mentioned towards the beginning with getting the kids and even us back to getting our hands dirty, we've cleaned ourselves to becoming sick.
Mhm.
Whereas before, we were much more willing to get dirty and almost microbes into our biome. And we're cleaning ourselves to that.
Yeah.
Now it's sanitize this, sanitize that. And it's nice that the kids get a place to play in the dirt.
Yeah, and we let them eat whatever they want, for the most part. Like, I had some really energetic students, and I didn't think they would want tomatoes. But you know what? They love the tomatoes. That was the only thing they wanted to eat. They're like, when are we gonna pick tomatoes? And like, do we have to wash them? And I was like, no, just eat them. They're not, nothing's gonna happen to you. So, that with beans and things like that, all of that was one thing that I wanted them to learn was like, it's not gonna hurt you. Now with that little butterfly peas, like all the students know, like they can go and eat those whenever they want. Because that is, and it's part of the culture. Like you have to create that culture for students because, like you said, we're so sterile. But you still need some of that dirt. I mean, I can be dirty and I'm still gonna eat the tomato that I just picked. I mean, you know, what's gonna happen really?
If they need to, in that native garden, add some of the things that we know the kids will to.
Yeah.
Whether it's torch scabs, whether it's fiddlewood, whatever it is that we know it's safe. Having gone through an experience that is effective.
I think I don't have any of those quite yet. But soon.
Were we looking at tunas or, what were they called? The cactus plant in the western. It was a very pretty picture and I was looking at. Looked like. Right there,
These
That's
are.
the Zinnias.
or the flowers.
No, this is actually my farm in Hawaii.
Oh, so I'm
So-
looking at the red, is that?
That's a flower.
No, okay,
Yeah, no, it's not a flower.
if it were here, it could have been a cactus.
Yeah.
I thought it was cactus too.
No, it's a flower that dyes purple.
Nice.
But yeah, this is my farm in Hawaii, and I had like 2 or 3 rows of asparagus, and I had a grove of bananas, and then my row crops with cover crops in between. And so I have a lot of pictures, but it was just too. It would be.
Flowers there.
I had to look at
Some
it.
Hawaiian flower.
No, it's an annual. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer in, going outside first thing in the morning and playing in the first for your mental health.
Yeah.
And I've read that, there's something about the sunlight in the morning and of course soil. But as we do that and pay attention to how you feel, like making a huge difference.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit crazy until you actually pay attention. Yeah, it's a great way to start the day.
It is. It is. I'm lucky to do what I get to do. And I sometimes maybe don't think about it that way, but I am super lucky. It's amazing. I would not want to do anything else. Even though I was a chemist for a long time and I really love that. I really love doing this. Like it's probably one of the best things. I think it keeps me physically active. It definitely supports my mental and emotional health like all the time. And I wouldn't want to do, there's nothing else in the world I want to do.
And it is hard.
It is hard, but you get such great joy. Like I remember, I still am always amazed at like when there's a vegetable that comes out that I haven't grown in a long time. Like I was telling Eva about the chicory and I was like, oh my God, I'm so in love with it. Now I want to grow this one again and I haven't grown it in years. But I'm thinking about that and like when I first see it, like it's just that feeling inside that you get. Actually, yeah. It's like an elation, I guess.
You probably
That's
read
so cool.
Brady's Sweetgrass.
I haven't read it yet.
Yes.
Actually, I have.
That's the first time we learned about your sisters.
Mhm.
And what, like you said, this is the way it's been grown. Ever since humans figured out how to grow stuff well.
Yeah.
Before the whole
Yeah,
industrial side of things.
exactly.
But it's. Everything that you're sharing is in that book and has that history behind it as to. The Native Americans used to do like that. And when Westerners showed up, they didn't understand.
Like everything is so codependent on one other thing, and even with the three sisters, like it doesn't necessarily need to stick to that. You could grow tomatoes maybe instead of growing the squash. You still just want that ground covered. I would always say grow beans though and corn, but you could still use the tomatoes as your corn trellis, or just thinking outside of the box. But it's an amazing way to grow, but then you can also experiment yourself with like different peppers or incorporating amaranth. Amaranth is another one that's really good for you. The leaves are really good for you, and so is the grain. Super good for you. So super high in amino acids and nutrition itself. And the leaves love the summer weather. They should be cooked, but they have very similar flavor to spinach. But yeah, it's an amazing crop to think about, like all of these different things to incorporate. And I love vegetables and I love to talk about them, and I could do it for days, and I just stare at catalogs all the time. I can pour over them. It's like a book to me, like, oh, what about this and what about this? So that is one thing. I do research crops that I grow before I grow them.
What's your reaction when you go to the grocery store and see their manufactured produce stuff?
So I only buy my produce from Sentli now, and unless I really need it, I buy it from the store. But I haven't gone to the grocery store to buy any groceries since last year when we started our CSC, so it was in November. Yeah, and if you think about buying local, the thing is that they're gonna last in your refrigerator a lot longer. So I still have like a vegetable box, like greens that have been there for at least 3 weeks now. So I'll eat them this week and next week and slowly go through things. Some things won't last as long, but that's just the nature of it. But most everything will last a very long time. But yeah, to your question, I haven't gone. I only go to buy fruit for the boys, but even that is seasonally. Like I don't buy out of season. Like I'm not going to buy strawberries right now. The berry season is over. I won't even buy oranges really until it's their valley oranges and citrus. I won't buy it from California, but it becomes a way of life. And so I won't even buy lettuce, and I'll be craving lettuce like bad in the summer. I think one year I actually did break down and I bought it because I was like, I need some greens like so bad. But even then I will wait until like I know it's gonna come back in season. So that's why you eat the amaranth or the roselle leaves, which are really tangy. You try to find a different substitute. Purslane is another one, Malabar spinach. All of those greens will like help that craving that your body has. But yeah, I just don't go anymore. But that's not for everybody. But I will say that if you do want to love the vegetables, buy from Sentli. They love what they do, and the farm is always open to volunteers and to take tours and other things like that. And yeah, they're an amazing group.
Do you need volunteers at San Benito, the farm in San Benito?
Since it's school campus, like we can't take volunteers. So there's like a whole process for it. Yeah. Like it's even a little for security reasons, they don't allow like too many visitors. And I usually have to get it like approved. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's why I'm getting towards Sentli. Like they will take volunteers.
That's Edinburgh, you said.
It is.
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What is the name of the place in Edinburgh?
Sentli Center.
How do you spell it?
Sentli.
How much are the vegetable boxes?
They are $30, although we don't have a season right now. So we won't restart our season until I want to say October. But the online store is still open, so you can search it up. And there's still like okra, Malabar spinach, there's zucchini, there's tomatoes. And I don't know what else. I think there's peppers. There's been peppers all year round because we had the mild winter. So there was bell peppers and serranos, jalapenos, habaneros. Those were still going pretty strong. And then we have some farmers who will post their eggs and things like that. So they do have like goats and eggs on the farm. So it's like pretty, diverse.
And if you haven't noticed on our Facebook page, I shared Sentli's post about a mushroom workshop next Friday. So when they'll experience the farm, the folks, get to know some of these people. I've been wanting to go visit those mushrooms, mushroom farm.
Yeah.
Or hear them out.
Yeah.
That would be really neat.
South Texas mushrooms. Is that who they're gonna have?
Where is it?
It's going to take place in Edinburgh. Is it at the Sentli Farm?
I'm not sure.
It's off of Rogers Road.
The mushroom workshop is in Edinburgh next Friday. And can we get more information?
Friday the 19th at 7:00. If you look at our Facebook page, or chapter Facebook page, I posted their link to it. And it has an RSVP.
St. Joy. Is that what it is? St. Joy? What's the name of the place?
Sentli.
Sentli, Sentli.
SENT?
LI.
Yes, yeah, that's what I got. That's Joy. No. SENTLI. SEN with an L. Yeah, SENTLI.
So that's June 19th at 7 p.m.
St. Joy.
And their mushrooms are really good. Yeah.
So fun.
They often will have the blocks that they grow them in.
Yeah.
They have to, instead of going to the landfill, it'd be great for a compost pile, it'd be great to just shred, throw out into your yard. So I know other places will do that, I'm sure they do too.
Yeah, I talked to them about that at one point because they have a lot of used blocks. So I bet he would definitely be willing to share.
What I'd love to do is what they do in Austin.
Mhm.
And I drive my pickup, fill it up with these blocks, come over to Cameron County and say, hey, I'm over here at this parking lot, who wants them? And so they do that in the Austin area with their mushroom farms. Just give those blocks out to people like us that would be interested in the composting of the material.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that'd be neat too.
Okay. I'll ask him and see if that's something. They actually just built a big warehouse. A bigger like growing space, and I think he's actually doing like dinners too now, every once in a while. So I'll see if he's having another one come up. I knew he had one like maybe a few months ago. So, but yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
And they're gonna be.